As I read the names of the women we remember and mourn and honor, a purple candle will be lit in remembrance of each of them. When all the purple candles are lit, we will light your candles from these memorial purple candles. These are the women we knew who have been murdered or have died as the result of domestic violence. Kathy James, Pat, Diana, Jennifer Dolan, Bertie Schum, Tracy Lavallee, Johanna Hurley, Allison Daniels, Megan Bigham, Valerie Scaraccio, and Amy Brandt.
My spirit at that point really, I was really aware that I felt like my spirit was dying and that I was becoming invisible, and that when I went to the supermarket, I felt like I almost didn't exist, you know?
And Woman's Place helped me out a lot. And I noticed that, and even myself, that when I came in, I didn't have any money for the extra things. I mean, they provided services for us. They had the residence fund, but you had to pay it back. And I would hear a woman say she really, really needed something after I started working here 3 years ago, or she felt bad because she couldn't get her child an ice cream, or when she left town, the bubble mower couldn't come for the baby and he really loved the toy. So it's like, what can I do to help the women? So I made these keychains, and they all started out with this color, purple. Purple represents domestic violence. And I made 33 of them, put them in little bags for Christmas, and gave it to all the staff. Then I went around and I asked, do you think they would sell? And here, everybody was excited. So it's like, okay, I got to start this creation. So I came up with different colors because the meanings are a lot that we have when we come into shelter. So I picked up purple is domestic violence color anyway. Silver is all throughout these because that represents courage. Okay, the heart represents love, that we're giving love to the women. Okay, dark, multi means diversity. Women come in from all walks of life, races, creeds, backgrounds. Light multicolored is spirituality. Sometimes we're so down in the dumps that we need to have some kind of hope, no matter who your higher power is. Something to grasp onto. Blue, I have down for mental health and serenity.
I love that.
That's the women come in depressed, and society has told them, you know, well, let me give you Xanax and do this.
Take a pill.
To take a pill,
That's
right?
what I want.
That's what I want.
And, you know, these are normal.
But you get addicted to them very.
Yes, and that's why I explain to women, this is normal. We need a little serenity in our lives. Green is recovery and growth. We have women that come in recovery or still addicted. So green stands for growth and
How do you get like
What's the
green? Like
green.
yeah, like how?
Green is growth. Well, if you come in,
The grass, I guess, and all that.
yeah, growth, nature, the whole thing ties in that. And it's like when you come to a woman's place and you choose to be in recovery, then it's growth. It's starting from the little seed of grass and grows even taller.
What's the percentage of like people that are coming in addicted? Is it half? Is it more than half? Less than half? I'm just curious since I'm there.
Maybe 0.25%
So,
are coming in. And there's women that come in that are already in recovery. And it's hard. It's hard to take
So
a
is it
step
like
at a
more than
time.
the regular chunk of society that, you know what I mean? Like if you went out to the next block and figured out who were all these women that are addicted on this block, is it more than that? Because we're battered and abused and alcohol and drugs comes into it more than in normal society? Or is it just pretty much the same? I wonder about that.
I don't have the stats on that, but I
So
know
that
if you
is
look at
pretty
a
high.
group of women and they all are addicted, that there is violence in there.
Right.
no, I think it's the violence, and then the addiction comes to
Right.
cover up the violence. Well,
And we
that's
got to
what happened
think,
with me.
why do we drink? Why? Because it takes away the pain.
Mhm.
Okay. Some women drink, some do
And
pills.
it stops your feelings.
Then you
too.
take the pills
Or
with
numbs
the
your
drink,
feelings.
and you take another pill because you need to feel better.
And it's a cycle and it doesn't break. And we have power to do that.
I was married almost 16 years. Well, I am still married, but I had left him 10 months ago and moved me and my children to a different state to get away from him. And in May, he said to come back to make things better, which I wish I never did, because for the last 4 months I gave it everything I had, and
Well, why? Tell me why you went back.
I went back to keep the family together and keep my two children to have a happy home and try to make it work. And
Did you love him?
I still do. I don't know why. But he hit me the last time in front of my daughter. And she was standing right next to me when he hit me. And I said, that's it. I said, because she's only 10 and I don't want her thinking that that's what daddies do to their mommies. And then my son tackled him. And I did a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs for a good long years. I've been clean for 14 months. And I just want a nice, happy place for me and my daughter. It's not easy. It hurts like hell, I'll tell you. But this staff has been wonderful. This place has been a godsend. I finally did it. But it still hurts, and I hate myself because I still care about them. And I feel like I did something wrong, and now my family's not together because of me. But I'm working on that.
Yeah. And it's okay to love him because there were good things, especially in the very beginning. how we're feeling now. We go through many changes when we come into shelter, many of which, you know,
It's been a long time too, and
yeah. Sometimes, and we minimize the abuse when we're here because for some reason the good things come out, the holidays or whatever. And another thing that hurts us, we go through the feeling of loneliness.
yeah.
Loneliness is different than being alone. Years ago, 5 years ago, I was so lonely. I sat up in the bathtub crying. It's like, when is anybody ever going to hold me again
Right, just,
or love me? I was 40 years old.
I'll be
3
40,
children.
and it's like,
4 children
mm,
and a grandchild. And it's like, who would want me? But after I left shelter, I started to find out who I was and what Val liked. And it was pretty interesting, but it takes a long time to get over that. Long time.
because I always wound up coming back to him, and
But I just want to say that you're a good mom.
like,
It's not your fault. You didn't deserve this. You're a good mom for getting your child out of there. I can tell you the road is hard. We don't know where we're going to go next. Everybody has different ways of handling stress. But I find sometimes with us working with our hands, it kind of helps alleviate some of that pain. So how's everybody doing today? I mean, we're gonna.
I'm
this
doing
session-
better than I was a few days ago. That's all I can tell you.
yeah, it's just
seem-
the
they
other
seem to be getting
problems
better.
that we're having, but we'll be okay
Well, that's
with that.
the community living. Can you talk a little bit about what brought you in? Woman in the orange. Can you tell a little bit what brought you in? What happened?
What you mean
Well,
by
over the
that?
past few months, my life kind of turned into chaos. I was the victim
Oh, we're
of
supposed to keep doing the same.
Tropical Storm Allison, and I called out of work that day because of the flood. I got fired. I've been homeless since June 16th, one way or another, whether I was in a hotel or staying at a friend's or whatever, and ultimately I ended up staying at my boyfriend's parents' house, and they didn't even know I was there. Through the past few weeks, months, the 2 months, I've been one emotion to the other and feeling hopeless and not knowing where to start to get back an apartment, to get a job, and I was using drugs and alcohol to try to mend my heart, and that sure didn't work. And I just heard a song on the radio that said all I had to give was love, and I think that that's all I had at this point to give my boyfriend, and he took everything else, money, my trust, and the other morning things just escalated, and he told me to get out, and I'd been drinking, and I said no, and he was jealous, and I ended up getting drugged, pulled, hit, whatever, and I called, and I couldn't get here right away, but I had to bide my time, and here I am,
I'm glad you're here.
in a safe place, and I don't know where I'm gonna go from here, but I'm gonna try to do my best to get my life back on track. And I've been a victim of abuse before. I was married to a man for 7 years who abused me, and I've been divorced since 1985. It is now the year 2001, and history is repeating itself. And I don't really know. I don't have the answers of what I'm doing or where I'm going, but the future's out there if I want to get it.
Is the abuse different now than it was those years ago?
Well, the only thing that is really ironic is just how they say that if somebody hits you once or hurts you once, that their chances are that they'll do it again. And 3 weeks ago, it was the same kind of scenario where it was very early in the morning. He's very frustrated. He was trying to help me, but he couldn't even help himself. And he slapped me. And then I thought, I'm not going to go back. I'm not gonna deal with this, and
So I can't.
3 weeks later, it happened, and this time it happened a lot worse. I got punched, I have a black eye, I have a huge bruise on my arm. I can't let my children see me like this, or they're gonna retaliate violently against them, because I have 2 male sons who are 20 and 23 years old, and they wanna protect me. And so, not only am I hiding out away from probably the, security of having somebody supposedly care about me, but I have to hide out from my own family because I don't want them to get hurt or anybody else get hurt. I don't want any more violence. So now I can't even talk to them because I don't want anything else to happen. There's the honeymoon period after
They hit you
the
once,
abuse.
it's gonna happen again. They don't go to counseling,
that.
you can hang it up.
And counseling really
You
is.
think counseling helps
Do you
them?
think-
I don't really think, but I
They don't
think
think
if
they
they
have
go
a
to,
problem.
if they go to counseling, then they're at least trying.
Right.
But
You
they're
know,
only
at least
trying to
they're
appease
trying.
you so you don't leave so they can continue their way of living, which is to beat you.
Yeah, but I think what you're saying is,
That's not always the
Like
case.
if they,
Some
the
people,
first
I
time they
would
hit
think-
you, get out the relationship right now and there.
but you're,
Somebody.
what
I
you're saying about
suppose-
counseling.
But if they agree to go to counseling and everything's working out, then maybe.
Well,
You could
suppose
stay
that
there.
your partner would say to you, I'm gonna go to, if he's in drugs, to AA,
Yeah.
drug and alcohol, I'm gonna go to anger management. Do you think
You
that'll change him like that?
No, it's gonna
No.
take a while.
A long
At
process.
least a year.
I can tell you, a person that
lifetime.
goes to domestic violence counseling, anger management, takes years,
Yeah.
years
A
of
lifetime.
therapy.
Well,
Yeah,
if they're
because-
trying
we
and
don't
they're
think that
going
they're
on a
doing
regular
something wrong.
basis,
Right.
Just
and
like
they're
you're
always
an
going
alcoholic,
and
you're
you
always
know
an
they're
alcoholic.
going and they're changing slowly but surely. But
I've always told women, if they leave us and they're thinking about, like I did, I thought about going back with my partner because, and I had a protection from abuse order. I was thinking about it because I had a son. I needed to keep the rapport. I needed the support. I wanted peace. I didn't want to be scared anymore. He said he was going to go to anger management. He said he's going to go to AA. He started AA. But it's like, Lord, let me give it 6 months. And here is an insecure woman, all her life, went from partner to partner before the relationships would end. First time ever on my own. And I gave it 6
Yeah.
months, and guess what? He turned out worse. He was
There are
dealing,
new tricks of the trade.
he was dealing, the drugs, and involved my older son. So I was thankful. I gave it some time, and I found out who I was. It's scary, and I'm hearing 2 to 3% of abusers that go into counseling, it's,
Don't make
how do
it.
let's say the overall abusers that go to counseling, 2 to 3% make it.
That's
They
it.
make it.
That's not very good.
But that's years and years and years of counseling.
That's not,
3%.
yeah, that's not
We
like.
can't change their behavior as much as we want to.
First time they hit you, leave. Just go then.
We didn't.
I know.
Yeah, but we have experience, we can speak now.
Yeah. First time they hit you, get out of it now.
Oh,
It's gonna get
God.
worse. You let that get away. you
And
let
then your
that
kids
go.
see too much.
Yeah, my kids cry and howl and
Yeah.
scream. They're all little. I don't want them to growing up thinking, "Mommy lets Daddy hit me." That's what I'm supposed
So I'm
to
gonna get a
do.
boyfriend then.
The sick thing is
And
that
they're little. I'm hoping
I would-
maybe they don't remember when they get a teenager. But-
That's why I got out now.
I'm
'Cause
like,
my
you're
kids
3 and
10
4,
now.
so maybe when they get big, they won't remember none of this.
I'm listening right now. The
Jordan
sick thing
saw
is
too
that I
much.
went through this 20 years ago, and that I've only been here for 5 days. Today's my 5th day, and I am thinking of this part of me still wants to have him back in my life, and that everything would be able to be fixed, even though I've been through this before.
It will
What
pass
is
once you
wrong
get
with
used
my
to not
sick
being
thinking?
around.
Is there something wrong with me? Am I thick-headed? Should I just put a brick against my head and
No.
say, "What's wrong with you, girl?"
what brought me here was 9 years of violence that I was afraid to leave because of threats to family, to threats to my children. I wasn't really in a position to leave because I never really had both my kids with me at the same time. He always made sure there was a reason why I couldn't leave, and the kids was always it. The last straw for me, after broken arms, cheekbones, teeth, everything, ribs, you name it. The thing for me was a loaded shotgun put in my son's face. And that was the first act of violence towards the children ever, really, except for maybe punishment or yelling. But physical violence, that did it. And when I saw my 16-year-old son's face and knew that one of us would be in jail for murder within the next 2 days, it was time to go. And it was too much. I knew it was too much. My son was at the age, both of them really were, they were too young to protect before, but now their protection would be so extreme that they would end up in jail or dead themselves. So before it came to that, it was time to go. And it was hard, very hard. I wanted to leave. I mean, it's all the love and all that was gone a long time ago. But the hard thing leaving was the kids. They leave their friends, they leave their school, their everything, you know. And it's harder when the boys are older too, because the last thing they want to do is be in a shelter. But once they got here and they met all the staff and everybody, now we have to leave today and they don't want to leave. Which it took a while because it's not easy,
awesome.
but everyone here really helped them out, showed them that, you know, it was okay. And the best part is that somewhere along the line of me letting them see it, because it was me that let them see all that they did not learn to be like that. Because every day I enforced it in their heads that no one deserves to be treated like this. We're gonna get out, but it's hard. You know, it's hard to leave because you
still love them
It's your
after everything
family.
they've done.
and I'm past the I'm in love with him stage. I felt a little bit guilty because I kind of, the way that I had to leave, I had to screw up his life big time, but I figured what the heck, it's
what
payback.
they do to your
You know?
life,
And I really don't have guilty feelings, but it took me a long time. I mean, it's been years of, you know what I mean? Years of
that's why I
trying to
had
separate. You know, and luckily I didn't fall into drugs and alcohol only because he was. So my only defense against him was to be on point all day, every day. I had to make sure that I knew, and I could read him well enough that I knew when I was in for it, or, you know, when something was not gonna go right. So I kinda had to keep myself clean, that way I could keep on top of everything he was doing, because he was predictable in the sense you knew you were gonna get, something was gonna happen, but when and how was always different, you know. So, but I'm glad I left. And believe me, you guys, I've been here a long time, and it's not easy your first 2-3 weeks here, but, and there's, you know, community living, but always think, right, and always think imagine if you were home. You may not be here to tell your story. And yeah, I went through the I'm gonna go home, but it was just the past couple days. But then you think, what an idiot, you know, who was talking? Was I talking, you know? And the good thing is that everyone will let you say whatever you want to say. Like, you know, my counselor just sat there and looked at me like, okay, is that what you want to do? And I said, yeah. She said, okay. Knowing that I knew I was running my mouth and wasn't really making sense.
This is a letter written by a woman that was in shelter at the same time me and my kids were. She and I became friends, and her kids and my kids became friends. They live in California now, but she still calls, she'll write, and she was in an abusive relationship in California. And one time when she was leaving that relationship, she sent me this letter, and she said, would you read it to Sarah? Sarah was her counselor when she was in shelter. And I guess she just kind of wanted to let Sarah know that I'm still working on it and I'm leaving. So anyway, this is kind of sad. Her name is Clara. What do you see, sir? What do you see? What are you thinking when you are beating me? A terrified woman, not very wise, uncertain of my feelings, with very scared eyes, who who swallows her blood and all she does is cry. When you say in a loud voice, I wish you would die, who tries to hide the things that you do, and forever took the blows as your fists flew, who unresisting or not lets you do as you will, while cooking and cleaning the long day I fill. I hope to make things better so tonight I can sleep without being sore from being beat. Once a young girl with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon a love she will meet. A bride at 19, my heart gave a leap, remembering the vows I promised to keep. And 2 young children of my own who need me to build a secure, happy home. And now, 28, my children grow fast, hoping their mom will leave this man at last. My children plead for him to stop hitting their mom is all they can do. I am so tired, my body is worn, but still this man beats me, I continue to mourn. Dark days upon me, I wish I was dead. I look to the future and just bow my head. I think of my children who will be left on their own. I think of the years of love they've never known. I am a good woman and I believe life is cruel. I have a man who makes me look like a fool. And now the day has come for me and my children to depart. I now have a stone where I once had a heart, but inside this woman a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain. I am loving and living life over again. I think of the years of me and my children's past, and thank God I didn't let them last. One thing left to say after all this time: open your eyes, sir, open and see. Not a battered woman, look closer and see me. As me and mine walk away, we will always remember this day. We gave up our home and all that we had, but we are just really glad to still have each other. Don't worry about abuse or foul language in use. Will we be happy? They ask as we leave. We will be more than just happy, but right now just relieved.
I think having a mother more present, because certainly I wasn't present, like when I was pregnant and hiding from the community. My daughter was a support to me when I should have been more of a support to her. My younger son, Jason, he had to live through that part of feeling like he wanted to defend me and couldn't. And that was a really hard place for him to be. And that's what eventually led me out in the end, in 1990 when I finally left, was knowing that he was now big enough, he was 17 or 18, and I didn't want to put him in the position of having to defend me where he was big enough to physically now defend me.
The hardest part of my job is that I can't promise kids that they're not going to be hurt and that mom's not going to be hurt. And I can't ever say that to a child, because many women end up back in the relationship or possibly in another relationship that's abusive. So one of the things it's important, I think, to do with kids is, no matter how old, help them identify people in their life that they can connect with, that aren't necessarily mom and dad. And, you know, it doesn't need to be me, but is there an uncle somebody, or an aunt somebody, or a grandma, or a neighbor, or the same things you hear over and over, a teacher at school, or somebody, you know, that you're in a Cub Scout pack with. Helping them safety plan is one of the things that we try to do with all kids here, just as we do with women. But more so for kids, because kids, you know, they're kids. They don't have the same abilities that grown-ups do. But if they can think of safety plans, or even safety plans in their home, if they're back with dad, can they call the police? Can they hide under their bed? Can they pull the covers up and put, that may be the safety plan they need to get through it. So I think it's helpful for kids to give them permission to do what they need to do to take care of themselves. Pretty much what I do at a woman's place is provide a place or another person that kids can connect to while they're here, to talk about what's been going on at home, to talk about how they're feeling, how sometimes that's conflicted because they're missing dad often and also loving mom and not wanting mom to be hurt. I'm also here to provide a support for moms. We encourage nonviolent discipline, and that's not always something that's been able to happen in homes, so we talk to moms about trying a new way of disciplining kids that doesn't include spankings or belittling or hurting them, and we connect it to their own violence in their lives. Most of us, the only parenting skills we know are those based on how we were raised, and many of us grew up in a time where hitting was perfectly acceptable and encouraged. From there, if a woman then ends up in an abusive relationship, depending on the abuser, often part of the abuse is, they want mom to be absolutely, totally controlling of her kids. They can't cry during dinner, they can't yell or jump or make noise. I've heard women whose kids they'll come in and their kids go to bed at 5 o'clock at night because that's when dad comes home and he doesn't want to hear the noise. And they go to sleep, even in the summer. So they haven't really had the space to parent the way that they necessarily would. It's not been always their choice in the ways that they parent now. Keeping the kids quiet, contained is often the focus via dad through to mom. Also, often violence escalates, and it seems like it's about kids' issues, but it's not, but it often feels to kids that it is, because the kids were making dinner, or they dropped their food or knocked their milk over at dinner, and the things that kids do. So it's a lot of time is spent helping moms recognize this is what kids do. They're here to play. They can make noise. It's during reasonable hours. That I expect kids to jump and sing and dance, and they also are encouraged not to take responsibility for their siblings. They can help out, but sometimes at home, older kids especially have been put in the position of really raising their younger siblings. And in larger families or in families where there's chaos, that's a pretty normal thing to do, but we want kids to have the opportunity to be kids and give them some space and time to be kids. Doesn't mean they can't run and grab a diaper or hold the baby for a minute, but it doesn't mean they're doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and laundry. It's the old basics. It's Play-Doh, it's silly putty, it's paper, crowns. It's just amazing. Maybe it's a sign of my age, but I'm like, the old standbys are still the things that kids still like to do the most. I use outside time when it's nice. I am outside. I feel better. I think kids can run, jump, feel easier about making noise, and it's amazing. I push it on the swing. You talk and you talk and you talk, and I'll stand there for hours. Just we'll switch around. We have different kids, so even though I might have a group outside, I get a lot of individuals' time, just maybe giving kids a push on the swing.